So much has been happening recently. I just got married. I'm in my last semester of nursing school. I'm trying to figure out jobs. I'm about to move out of state. I'm launching products, among many other things. There's just a lot happening right now. A lot of really exciting stuff, a lot of things that I wasn't even expecting. And here we are, living life, taking it day by day, and just receiving what the Lord has for us. I've been getting a lot of questions on my Instagram. I know I've been kind of like in and out on my Instagram recently. I apologize for that. Thank you for bearing with me. But I've just been getting a lot of questions in my DM. So I was like, you know what? This is a great time to do a little Q&A. So here we are. Jumping right on in, we have tell us about your wedding. Lots of wedding questions. So yes, I am married. I'm a wife. Very exciting. I got married on January 1st. I made a little video about it, kind of like recapping it a little bit because we actually planned it in a month, which I know sounds crazy, but we just had a small intimate gathering. It was so beautiful. It honestly could not have turned out better. It far surpassed our expectations that we had for the day. The Lord was so abundantly present, and the day itself just meant so much to all of us, the entire family. It was just our immediate family there, and just with things that had been happening around the wedding, it was just a really beautiful day of joy and celebration in so many different ways. So it really filled up our hearts immensely. Everyone was so excited. Everyone was crying. It was just like, woo! My sweet, sweet husband was sobbing when he was telling me his vows, and that just like made everybody die. We were not expecting him to cry, and I honestly didn't think he would, just because he doesn't cry often, but wow, it really was so touching to see him crying. And I know he knows that I like talk about it a lot, but it just was so, it seriously was so sweet. Something about seeing your husband expressing his love to you, vowing his heart to you, and shedding tears over that. I mean, also fun fact, I was so excited to kiss him when we got married that I forgot to wait until they said, "You may kiss the bride." And it's just so funny to me because one of the things that I've always really loved the idea of is for the officiant, whenever I were to get married, to say, "You may now kiss your bride," instead of the bride. I've always really loved the idea of that, not just being the bride, but I'm your bride. Like, I am my husband's bride. And I loved that, but you know, I was just so excited the day of that I didn't even let the officiant say that. I just jumped on ahead and kissed him because I was like, ooh, I want to be your wife. So yeah, it was just like, I may now pronounce you husband and wife. And then I kissed him, which is really sweet looking back. It was just wonderful. Also, our officiant was actually my husband's dad, so that was just like extra special. The photographer there was actually my high school's photographer that I had reached out to, being like, hey, we're throwing together a last minute little ceremony. One of our family friends helped out with decorating. Just everybody that was involved really meant so much to us, went out of their ways to help us, and we really could not be more grateful. And then I also got asked about the secret journal and how it went when I gave it to him, because for those of you who don't know, I've been keeping I was keeping a secret journal for my husband throughout the time of us dating, and then I surprised him with it when we got married. So originally I wasn't sure when I was going to give it to him, but I actually decided to give it to him the day of, on our wedding day. The reason I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that at first is just because I was like, I know when I give it to him we're going to want to read through it all, and I didn't want to take up all of that time on our wedding day because I knew we'd be with family and everyone. So I was like, maybe I'll give it to him another day. But on the wedding day I actually decided in the moment to give it to him because we had just stepped out into another room together one-on-one, and we were just talking and reflecting on the day and just having a really sweet moment. We were reflecting back on our relationship, and I was like, this is a really good segue to present him with the journal that I've been keeping throughout our entire relationship. So I ended up giving it to him that day. He was so surprised, and his reaction was just so sweet. We briefly flipped through it, but then decided we were going to mainly go through it on our little honeymoon that we did. And I also got a couple questions about where we honeymooned. So an interesting thing about that, we actually haven't gone on like an official honeymoon or anything. We plan to do that probably like once I'm actually living with him, which I'll get to that in a second because I also have questions about that. But we decided to do a little at-home honeymoon. So basically the day after we got married, we both flew out to our very first home together. He had moved in right before we got married, but I hadn't been there since we toured the place. So it was my first time being back when it was like our home. So we thought it was just like a really special, sweet way to do like a last minute thing where we could have some really good quality time together. So it was kind of like a little sample of living together up until I graduated. And so to answer like the long distance questions about why are we doing long distance marriage, basically I'm still in my last semester of nursing school, and just with the timing of everything, with wanting to get married before we live together, me not knowing my schedule for even like next month yet with nursing school, or knowing my post-grad plans with when I'll get a nursing job or what shifts I will have. And same with like his work schedule. It just was a lot to kind of like coordinate, a lot of moving pieces that we weren't really certain of. So we were like, you know what, makes sense to just go ahead and get married now when we know that everybody in our family is available. We're so glad we did it that way. The one downside though is that we're still long distance a little bit for a few months until I finish nursing school and can move to be with him. Oh, and then back to the journal. We had spent the time during our at-home honeymoon reading over the journal, and it seriously was just the sweetest thing to be able to be freshly married and read back on my first person perspective and look at pictures and everything of our entire relationship. I mean, wow. It really just put into perspective how much we've been through together, all of the amazing, incredible memories we've had, and just like having a timeline, a visual timeline and story of our entire relationship. It was just so sweet to be able to read through, and we did it all in pieces over the course of however many days. So it was just like a little like time that we sat down and read it together, and I would read it aloud to him so that he could hear it in like the voice that I had written it in. And it was just so cool, especially to have him be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you wrote about that, or I totally forgot about that, or I had no idea about this journal. And it just was so sweet. Could not recommend it enough. So if you have someone that you are thinking of marrying, maybe consider doing a little secret journal for them, because I don't know, it just was the best. How do you feel about being long distance from your husband? Guys, oof, it's different from being long distance when we were just dating or engaged. Obviously, it sucks being long distance at any time, but now that we're married, it's like a physical pain being away from him. When we said goodbye after our little at-home honeymoon, it was like, what? We have to say goodbye now? Like, we are one and now we have to be apart, but we're still one, but we're far away, but we're together, but we're not. It was emotional, but at the same time, it makes it so much sweeter because we have this beautiful life that we've already been establishing and setting up in the home that we have. There's so much to look forward to. It's really sweet to know that as soon as I graduate, I can move on over to be with him, and we have this beautiful life just waiting for us. Well, sorry if you heard my shoulders crack. Honestly though, I feel like the joy of just being newlyweds is just so grand that although it's not fun that we're still doing long distance, it's like nothing can ruin how much love and happiness I feel for him. Even our FaceTimes and our texts are so fun. Like, it's just so exciting at all times to be with him and to talk to him. Now let's do some journaling questions, because of course I got some journaling questions. Let me have a sip of coffee first. How do you find the motivation to journal every day? Guys, I'm gonna be so real with you right now. I don't. There are many days that I don't have the motivation to journal. And I really just want to have a moment with you guys about this, because I get this question so often. And I think relying on motivation for anything in life, but especially like something like daily journaling or a routine or a habit you're trying to build, relying on motivation is going to lead you to fail. Motivation is only going to get you so far. So I do not rely on motivation, nor do I feel it every single day. There are ways to build motivation, but ultimately you need to rely on the discipline in doing it. You need to decide, do I want to journal? And if so, do I want to do it every day? And if so, why do I want to do it that way? And kind of like work into that so that you can ground yourself in what it means to you, why you're doing it, and then hold on to that grounding when you're not feeling motivated. The personal accountability and discipline is so important. When you're feeling like you really don't want to journal, you need to look at yourself and be like, hey, I'm gonna do it anyway. Same thing with going to the gym. You're not always gonna want to go to the gym. Yesterday, I really did not want to go to the gym. It was snowing outside. I had just had an overnight flight the day before. I was so exhausted, but I was like, you know what? I really need to get my body moving, so I'm going to trek through the snow and go to the gym. And thankfully, my friend encouraged me to go too, and she went with me, and that helped a lot. So finding things like that to help with motivation, or to help even like with the discipline of doing it, is really helpful. So when it comes to journaling every day, get inspiration. Follow journaling accounts on Instagram. Watch journaling videos. Buy some fun pens or a journal that you look forward to. Write sticky note reminders or set alarms for yourself, or find a journaling buddy. And then also setting aside some time to dedicate to it can be really helpful as well. So like if you know that every day at this time, this is when I'm gonna journal, that can be really helpful, especially when you're building the habit or when you're making your plan for yourself for the day. Like, write journaling on your to-do list. How has it been releasing your own journaling packs? So cool. Guys, can you believe it? Not only am I releasing journaling packs, but I'm doing those journaling packs with Pentel. There's still more to come and I'm so excited. The next one actually comes out next week, so stay tuned for that video. Have you continued using color every day in your journal entries? Almost yes. I can say it almost like 100% yes, but it's more of like 99% yes. So I started incorporating color every single day in my journal entries in August of, was it 2023? Oh my gosh, I think it is. Wow. Yeah, because it definitely wasn't last August, so I guess it was the one before, which means it's been like coming up on like a 1.5 years of incorporating color in my journal every day. That's crazy. So it's not like a strict rule, because there has been probably like 4 days over the time that I've been doing it every day that I haven't done it. It's not really like something that I really have to do every single day, but I just like to continue trying to challenge myself to include some sort of creativity other than just like pen on paper. Sometimes the color is very minimal and it's literally just like I color in a little heart on the page and that's it. It just helps stretch my brain a little bit more every day, and also like a lot of the times I end up creating something that I've never done before, and that's just really cool to experiment in that way. And also it just makes it so much more fun to flip through my journal because I'm just like, wow, there's color and stuff. I also got a couple questions on if my husband journals or if we journal together. He does have a journal, but he uses it more for like work related things and writing to-do lists in there or planning purposes. But he has been saying that he wants to start journaling, which I'm like, hey, be my guest. And then also just recently when I last saw him, he was like, can I write a journal entry in your journal? And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about that before, but like, yes. And so he wrote the sweetest journal entry in my journal. And then I journaled after him in my journal because I was like, that doesn't count for my daily journal entry. But he wrote a whole page in there and it was just so sweet. And then also while we were doing that, I was like, I'll write a little journal entry for you. And so I wrote something for him and gave it to him, and then he gave me what he wrote to me in my journal. So we were like sitting down and journaling together at the same time, and it was so fun. Very intimate, very sweet. And of course, the journal lover in me was just dying because it was just wonderful. Moving on to some productivity and health related questions. I get asked this a lot. How do you stay so productive? First of all, I'm not always productive, but when I rest, it's intentional. It's a choice to rest so that I can be more productive in the things that I have to get done. I also am very passionate about the work that I do. I genuinely wish I had more time in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year, so that I could do more with my life, because there's just a lot of really cool things in life and I just simply don't have the time to do it all. But when it comes to getting all the stuff that I want to do done, my biggest tip is to block out your time, like block out your day. I make copious amounts of to-do lists, and when I make those to-do lists, I also plan when I'm gonna do it. And I'm realistic with myself. I'm not gonna like overload my day and be like, I'm gonna do all these things. I mean, sometimes I get like a little ambitious and think I'm gonna do all those things, but then I end up not. But I try to be realistic with myself and say, okay, I have to take this practice exam. It's untimed. Realistically, I could take it in 30 minutes to an hour, but I know that I kind of struggle with staying focused when it's an untimed practice exam. So I'm gonna give myself 2 hours to do it. So it's like a time limit for myself to shoot for that's realistic, but also it's a goal so that that practice exam doesn't take me 4 hours, because it could take me 4 hours if I was getting distracted and like, let me go get a snack, let me go do something else, let me go like whatever. And then also just having a plan for your entire week is so helpful, because it's like, okay, this day I'm gonna do this thing, this day I'm gonna do that thing, that means I have free time on this day, and you can kind of just like adjust it as needed as you go throughout your week. Making your to-do lists and stuff the night before too, to be like, okay, tomorrow I have this and this and this going on, I want to get this and this and that done, this is how I'm going to schedule it out, this is the time I'm going to wake up, this is the time I'm going to start doing this thing. Having just some sort of plan just makes it so much easier to get stuff done, because you can try to follow it to the best of your ability, challenge yourself to actually do it well, and then if you don't stick to that plan 100% because things happen, then you have tomorrow to readjust and keep going. I also think that daily journaling has helped so much with my productivity because of the discipline it's taught me to do it every day. That habit has instilled in me kind of like an attitude of I have to get it done whether I want to or not, because in my mind, journaling is a non-negotiable. I'm gonna do it. So when I think of the things that I have on my to-do list, the things that I have to get done, the things that I want to get done, when I apply that mindset of I have to get it done, I just do it. Whether I like it or not, whether I'm feeling good or bad, whether I would rather take a nap or scroll on my phone, it's gonna get done. And that's not to say I'm perfect at it at all. There are times that my plans don't go according to plan. I procrastinate, but because of the trust that I've built within myself with knowing like I'm gonna get my daily journaling done, I'm gonna do it every day, I trust myself so much to get my work done. I know I've said this a lot in other videos, but if you like tell yourself you're gonna go to the gym and then you don't go to the gym, you're losing trust with yourself. It's so important to follow through with the things that you tell yourself and like that you tell to other people. Your words mean a lot. So make sure that what you tell yourself is kind, is accurate, that you follow through with it, that it's honest. And so if you set out to do something or have things on your to-do list that you want to work towards, make sure you get it done because you're so capable. Working to build that trust within yourself is really so helpful when it comes to being productive and just getting stuff done in general. Because even in the times that I do procrastinate where I'm like, ugh, I am gonna consciously choose to not do this right now because I really don't want to. And yes, I could be disciplined, but I just want to have like a breather right now or, you know, go do something else. I still know that even though I'm putting off my work, I know that I am going to uphold the deadline that I have. If I tell myself I'm going to do something, I'm going to do my best to actually do it, and I trust myself to get it done. Again, I'm not perfect, so when those times do happen, give yourself grace, but then still keep working towards being on top of it. Also, to-do lists are always helpful. So is God. God is literally what powers me through all of it. All of the things that I can so easily complain about, of the things that I have to do and have to get done, those are all stepping stones to the path that the Lord has called me on. And I just see that as serving Him in getting these things done. So it's in a lot of ways worshiping the Lord as I continue on throughout nursing school and balance all of the other things in my life, my job, my relationships, my faith, my hobbies. All of these things you can offer to the Lord and use it as a way to worship Him. How do you manage anxiety? I was actually talking to a friend about this the other day because I have a few thoughts on anxiety. First of all, for some background, I used to have awful anxiety. I mean, I have plenty of journal entries where it just totally took over my entire life. I definitely still have anxiety. I'm not like this perfect person because I feel like anxiety is just like everyone experiences it at some point in some way. But there have been a lot of things that have been very helpful with my anxiety. And the biggest thing, honestly, for me was exploring faith and developing a relationship with God, because I used to not have that growing up. And I see such a stark difference in how my journal entries are, what I write about, how I write, from before I accepted the Lord into my life to after. I mean, really, my life is just so much better in every way since then, and that has helped my anxiety so much because I can offer it to the Lord. I have trust that He has a plan, that even in the things that I don't understand, there's a purpose for what He is doing. It gives me a purpose too in trying to seek after that plan and just surrender to that, and that just gives a lot of comfort and helps me process all of the unknowns in life, because even though I might not know it, I know that God knows it, and that is just so relieving to me. And also in general, like even when anxieties do spring up, I can always redirect myself to reminding myself of God's word and fuel myself with that to help decrease anxieties. Also, of course, journaling has been a huge help. It's just, I think, one of the best outlets that you can do. Exercise is also really great. It's so funny because whenever I'm like in a bad mood in any way and I'm like, I should work out or something, I'm always like, I don't want to, like that's not gonna make me feel better. And then I go and work out, and sure enough, afterwards I always feel better. And I never want to admit it because I'm always like, oh, it worked, I feel better. But I mean, it makes sense, especially from like a physiologic standpoint. We release endorphins that literally make us happier and decrease anxiety when we work out. I think also a really big thing that helped with the anxiety that I used to have is, for the longest time, I just identified with my anxiety. I pretty much just like accepted that I was an anxious person. Like it was a label that I put on myself that was like a part of who I was. And I think we need to be really careful with that, because although it is so important to destigmatize mental health, I think we should be careful in normalizing it to the point where it's like, it's totally fine to be anxious. We shouldn't judge someone for going through something, especially if it's out of their control, but we should support them and help them get out of it. I just think that in the whole mental health movement. The destigmatization of it is really awesome, but the normalization of it almost makes it so that I feel like people get stuck in it. And then also when it comes to the treatment of mental health, we really need to just remember that it is not a one-size-fits-all approach to treating mental health. There are so many different things that could be causing somebody's anxiety, depression, etc. And as a soon-to-be nurse, I'm extremely passionate about pursuing a more targeted approach. Before just like going straight to a medication, we should explore like what the cause is and try to target those causes as best we can and utilize non-pharmacological treatments as well. We can be very quick to just prescribing a medication that isn't specifically targeted to what the root cause is, and it could possibly even add more side effects. I just think that there is a lot of work to be done in the treatment of mental health, and it's something I'm very passionate about because I think we're just kind of blanketing the proper way to treat and support and help people rather than actually going to the individual and treating them holistically and caring for them as a whole. Anyway, I digress, but let's move on to some faith questions. What type of Christian are you / what denomination are you? I honestly don't even like consider myself any denomination. I guess I would just say non-denominational, but I just believe what the Bible says. As somebody who didn't grow up in Christianity, I've never really understood denominations because I'm like, if we're all reading the Bible, why are we reading it differently? It just like doesn't really make sense to me. I love having theological discussions and trying to like discern the word, but I feel like denominations kind of just originate from taking the word out of context and then causing a lot of debate and divide within the faith. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on that actually, because it's just something that I've never really understood. Maybe there's like a better explanation to it. My camera just died, but we are back. How do you set time aside for God during a busy semester? You know what's so interesting, and I don't know if I've talked about this in a video before, something I have reflected on recently is I mentioned that journaling is a non-negotiable for me every day, but getting in the word hasn't been a non-negotiable for me every day, and I have been reflecting on the why is that. So this year in 2025, I have been really trying to be more intentional about getting in the word every day and making it a non-negotiable. Something that is helpful in that is I showed to you guys how I made this little chart for myself, and it's just this little like tracker that I made where I can keep track of when I've gotten in the word each day. So this is what it's looking like so far. Obviously I have not been perfect, especially more recently, just because there's just been like a lot of unpredictable things happening recently, so my routine has been off a bit and I still need to actually mark off today. Anyway, it's just like a little thing for me to have a visual representation on am I doing it and holding myself accountable, because I found that during busy seasons, especially during the semester, I just am way more likely to be like, oh, I'll do it later, and then I just don't do it, and then I'll like get in that habit of not getting in the word, and that's just a really bad habit to fall into. So even in the days that I don't get in the word, I can like have this visual of like, ooh, I didn't do it yesterday, I'm not gonna do it today again, like just 2 days in a row, like I gotta get in it, and I can feel a difference too. And then also I've been using the journaling packs for like crossing it off. So since I have the ultimate journaling pack for this month, I use that one, and then the Feeling Grounded pack is for February. The next one is gonna be for March. I thought that was just like a fun way to use color to mark it off each day. I think my camera has been bumped. Whoops, there we go. Another thing that's helpful for me as well, especially during a busy semester, is to have community that I can regularly go to. So for example, I'm in a Bible study here at UVA and I meet with them weekly, and I always prioritize going to that. I don't care if I'm tired, I don't care if I have something the next day. I know that that is something that I am doing every week to spend time in community, to spend time with the Lord, and it is so beneficial for me. Having it like scheduled in my week, every single week, I know I'm gonna go to that. At the end of the day, I think it's okay to recognize like God understands that you're going through a busy season. You don't need to beat yourself up if you're not perfect about it, but I also would say to be careful with just using that all the time of like, God understands that I'm really busy, because let's be honest, we're always going to be very busy. There are going to be busier times for sure, but I do think that there's an importance in building the discipline with having a relationship with the Lord. So having some things built in your schedule can be really helpful in that, and it's still something that I'm working on because I'm definitely not perfect about it. How do I get back in my faith journey after falling off? Okay, so when I got this question and I was thinking about it, it reminded me of the times that I get asked the question of how do I get back into journaling after falling off, and one of the ways that I answer that question is by saying like, when you don't know what what to write or you don't know how to get back into it, you can literally start your journal entry with, I don't know what to write about. In that same thought process, you can also go to God and be like, God, how do I get back into this? Or Lord, I don't know what to pray about. You can take that, the falling off or not being as disciplined, you can take that to the Lord and be like, this is how I'm feeling right now. This is what I need help with. Show me how I can pursue you. And then also getting in community, that's really, really huge for me, because not only, like I've mentioned, is it a scheduled thing that you can do every week, and it's like easier to do something when it's scheduled into your week, but also the community that I surround myself with, they hold me accountable as well, because they like ask questions like, how are you doing right now in your relationship with God? How has your daily devotional time been? It's just like really nice to have those check-ins, even if my answer is like, you know, I've been really not great about it recently, but I need to improve and get better. And then I've been getting so many questions about my post-grad life. I am so excited to graduate. I know I've shared a million bajillion times that this is my 5th year at UVA, and having an extra year has just like, whew, the senioritis is like doubled having a second senior year, especially now that I'm married and have this beautiful life waiting for me. I'm just like, am so eager to graduate, to start working as a nurse. But so once I graduate, I will of course be moving in with my husband, which that is just so exciting. I am counting down the days, and then obviously I want to start working as a nurse. The state that I'm moving to, it's actually kind of competitive for new grads to get nursing positions there, or at least like specifically in labor and delivery, which is the field that I want to go into. And labor and delivery already is like a competitive field wherever you go for the most part. But so because of that, I am just like trying to broaden my horizons a little bit and just kind of accept the fact that I might not be able to land a labor and delivery position. I really hope I do, because I've just always felt called to working in labor and delivery. It's where I have the most experience. I worked at UVA's L&D unit for a year as a patient care technician. I also had a nursing school clinical there, and then my practicum, which is like the second half of my last semester of nursing school, so it starts like next week for me, that is also on an L&D unit. So I have the most experience in labor and delivery. I love it so much, and again, just truly feel called to doing it. So hopefully I can land a labor and delivery position as a nurse once I graduate, but I don't know. And honestly, I love so many things about nursing. Even though labor and delivery would be my top choice, I really feel like I could see myself being happy in any nursing position, because the root of why I want to be a nurse is because I want to serve others and help with their needs, and you can get that in any nursing specialty. And that's one of the things I love about nursing, is just that there's so much variety. And then also on top of moving in with my husband and working as a nurse, I also plan on continuing doing YouTube and just like, you know, establishing a life outside of college. I've been a student my entire life, so it's kind of crazy to think about that I won't be in school for the first time in like 17 years, since it's 12 years of like grade school, 5 years of college. But also I went to 2 preschools before kindergarten, and then I guess kindergarten also counts, so that's like 3 more years, so like 20 years. I'm about to be 23 and I've been in school for 20 of those years. That's crazy. But I'm very excited for post-grad life and just like figuring out a new routine. I also was asked what my plans are for YouTube post-graduation, and again, I'm planning on continuing doing it. I also don't plan to start working as a nurse right away. I actually don't know when I'll end up starting, but so I'll have more time to do YouTube. But also, like, I'm moving in with my husband, so I also kind of just want to soak up that newlywed time, because we're only going to be newlyweds once. We've been long distance, so it's like just going to be so exciting to finally move in together and not just have like stretches of weeks together. I just like feel like I might want to take advantage of like not having to work in that chunk of time and getting to be like a wife at home and just getting to soak up that sweet time together. I am just excited, and I'll continue doing YouTube, of course. And then of course we got to answer the kid questions. So do you plan on sharing your journals with your kids? Yes, of course I do, but I just don't know like how or when. I definitely want to like show them that it's a thing that I do. I definitely will like read it to them, or like select different times of being like, look, this is when I met your dad, or whatever. I just feel like that would be really sweet. Or like, look, when I was your age, this is what I wrote. I don't know, I just feel like that would be really sweet and really fun. And then when are we planning on having kids? I don't know. Whenever the Lord blesses us with children. Since we've been long distance, we're like, you know, it would be really sweet to just have like this time between the two of us. And what's so crazy is I feel like I was put on this earth to be a mom. I cannot wait to have babies. So I like thought like I was gonna, you know, get married and be like, oh my gosh, I want to have a baby right now. And like, don't get me wrong, I have crazy baby fever, especially now that we're married. We both are like, What if we just had a baby right now? But something that really surprised me is that even though I have that extreme baby fever, I also cherish this time with just him and I. He is just truly my best friend, and it feels like we get to have sleepovers every night when we're together, and it's just so fun being married. And so I'm so excited to have lots of little babies, but also at the same time I really do love this time with just me and him, especially like since we've been long distance. I'm looking forward to just having like more of that time more regularly and just like every day rather than like chunks of time, you know. And so I don't know, there's no like set plan, but it's just, you know, the Lord will let us know when the time is right. And then the last question I'll answer is, are you going to tell us if and when you get pregnant? Which, oof, even just saying that like that's so exciting to think about. Wow, I can't believe that that's gonna happen at some point. That's so exciting. But yes, I do plan on sharing that. I don't really know exactly what it will look like or like how or when I would announce it, but I definitely will share that. Especially with my passion for labor and delivery, I really feel strongly about just kind of showing what motherhood looks like. I don't want to show my kids online, but at least like from a motherhood perspective, and coming from like a nursing background, I really would love to just showcase motherhood from my perspective when that day comes. I've just always felt so called to that aspect of life for myself, to become a mom, but also in my work, to like working in labor and delivery. It is absolutely fascinating to me. So when that time of my life approaches and when it is here, I will definitely be sharing it to an extent. And yeah, I just like, ooh, it's so crazy to think that that's like could happen at some point in the next however long. Like, so exciting. This has been so fun, and I feel like this was so needed just to like fully catch up with you guys, update you guys on a lot of the stuff that's been going on in my life. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!